So today, I am really honored to be able to feature women who have not only given their time and service to the military, but are also nurses. And one of these special ladies is Lynda Ash, who I know through working at the VA hospital with Linda as a nurse. Hello, Linda. Welcome here.
Well, hi, Carol. Good seeing you today. You look so nice.
Thank you. You too. So I know Linda from working with you, but I don't know Linda from your personal background story. Where'd you grow up, Linda?
Well, I grew up, first of all, I'm the oldest of 10 children, and I grew up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I was a part of a group of 52 of us in Hattiesburg that integrated our school in 1967.
Wow, historic. That's beautiful. The oldest of 10 children.
Right.
Wow. So you're the boss lady of the family.
I am, and there's only three of us left.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, how did you decide military?
My father, like I say, the oldest of 10, my father was not very well educated. He made $70 a week for most of the time that I was growing up. So I knew I had to come up with a way to generate some funds to go to college. Even if I got a scholarship, I still needed some extra funds. And I'm not one of those people with a lot of talents, but I knew that I had to go to college. I can't sing and I can't play sports. So that's how I decided that I needed to think of some other ways of getting my education paid for. My mom had five brothers, all of which were military. Three were career military individuals, and they were middle class. And I'm thinking, my goodness, there's some money there. And so at a young age, I think I was about 14 or 15, I realized that if I joined the military, I could get my education paid for. So I worked hard at that. Didn't take I mean, I don't know why I even thought about something at that particular age. So that's where it first started. Back when I graduated, most women were either nurses or teachers, and my mama's baby sister was a nurse. And then I had some other aunts that were teachers, but I did not want to do that. So that's how I decided to choose the military. And it's pretty all inclusive because the military houses you, feeds you, gives you a little bit of money. And so all of the things that I needed to be able to get my education would have been paid for. I would have been cared for. And so that was what I was thinking in those days. I'm not sure where that came from, but that's what I was thinking.
Well, I guess like you said, you had people in your family that showed that their choice to go to military was beneficial financially to them. And
Yes.
right, the education part too. Which branch did you serve in?
I was in the Air Force as a reservist. My husband was at work and he called me and he said, first of all, when I was getting married, I went to school, nursing school in Wichita Falls, Texas, but I went to LPN school so I could support myself and then go on to be an RN. So he called me one day. I was 33 years old and he said, they're taking nurses that are a little bit older. They're recruiting more nurses. And I thought, oh God, he says, you've always wanted to do that. So I did. I went in and talked with a recruiter and they started the paperwork on it. But there were some challenges there because I knew nothing about flight nursing. And this was the job that they were recruiting nursing personnel for. So first of all, I had to have a couple of waivers because you have to be at least 5'1", and I was 5.5. And I needed to be in before my next birthday because reservists had to be no older than 33 and active duty no older than 35. But a lot of that changed. In fact, it changed while I was in. And then I had to get my commission, which didn't require me to do anything. They just looked me up and got all my educational background and they would be able to get me in. So that's how that happened. I went back to work at the VA that day or that week or whatever. And I was telling, I'm joining the Air Force. And the nurse in the ICU at American Lake VA Medical Center said, I am a part of that unit and we are recruiting. And so she took my name and took it back to the unit and they started working on it to get me in before that 34th birthday. So it things just fell into place. I was it was just amazing. Yes.
That is amazing. His feelings, he was already working with someone who could make the difference in you getting there.
And I learned a lot of things. Like I didn't know that the reserves had full-time reservists because this is a full-time reservist job. It's not a traditional reserve job, a couple of weekends a month and then 2 weeks during the year. That wasn't the case. And so it was somebody worked every day. It was called an active reserve unit because AirVac for the Air Force is manned by or staffed by men and women in a reserve status. So it worked out fine. My commission came in on a Friday. It was my birthday's May 14th. My commission came in on the 11th of May, which was a Friday. The plan was if it got there on Saturday and I couldn't get to the base to raise my hand and say I do, there was another option. They said to me, Linda, do you know anybody that's military that's an officer? And I said, yes, my neighbor is a pilot. And so I talked with him and he says, yes, I'm here this weekend. And my commission came in around 11 or 12, somewhere around there. And I called the base and I said, I got it and I'm on my way. And it worked out really nice. So I'm here 21 years and 11 months later, my retirement from the Air Force, and then 33 and a half retirement from the VA. So
Wow,
that's
that's
my
beautiful.
story.
That's a beautiful story. So tell us about give us an example of what it's like to be on an air vac. What is that exactly?
Well, we do is in air vac, we don't take care of patients on the ground. We only take care of patients in the air on the aircraft. We fly the crew is two nurses, three techs, two pilots, and two load masters. And at some point in time, especially during wartime, we may have more than one crew. One crew is the numbers that I just gave you, and we could potentially have two crews on that plane. We can carry 105 patients in different statuses. They're not all on beds. Some of them are ambulatory. In fact, most of them are going to be ambulatory for the particular aircraft that you're flying on. So, as a flight nurse, we have our nursing, so that's not a real issue, but you have to go to flight school. And when they were recruiting, trying to increase their numbers for the Air Force from 30 to 50, they didn't have enough staff at flight school in Texas to get us all in a timely fashion. So I waited a year, almost a year, and then I went to flight school because you already are a nurse, so you know you're nursing, but you have to go to flight school too because you need to know the aircraft, the oxygen system, the electrical system in order to plug the equipment in and all those kinds of things. So that's basically the rest of the education that's required when you're a flight nurse. Your patients come to you by ambulance or whatever. They could be coming by a pickup truck or whatever, wherever they find the patient out there in the military on the ground or wherever. They could come to your plane in a lot of different vehicles. And then you put them on the aircraft. You've already configured the aircraft, meaning that you will have already put up all the litters. You have all your equipment in place. You bring a lot of things with you. And so you get the aircraft ready and it looks like a hospital unit and you take care of your patients. Unbelievable. I'm pretty sure it's pretty hard to believe that five crew members, two nurses and three techs can take care of about 100 patients, but it depends on uh, what their illnesses are and just the acuity of those particular patients that you're transporting.
Mhm.
Anyway, we only take care of them on the aircraft. The ambulances and any vehicles that's transporting them will be at the aircraft when you bring them where they're supposed to be going and they take them to the hospitals.
So traveling, did you really enjoy the flying, going to different places?
I did. I was one of those people that really was not very fond of traveling, but I loved taking care of patients. That was my joy. And so my joy that that gift that God had given me sort of took over. And so I wasn't frightened to fly anymore. I'd only flown a couple of times. I loved my work. I guess I should say that I just loved it. I covered the Pacific, which is Hawaii, Alaska. Those were our routine weekly missions. And then we also covered our headquarters area, which was Japan. And when I first came in, it was the Philippines. So those are the areas that I flew to often. But when you were there, you picked up all the patients from a lot of other areas. You went around and you like cherry picked and picked up the patients in Korea, Guam, and all those kinds. So I love that. And I just really enjoyed it. I never thought about the fact that I had some motion sickness because I love taking care of those patients. And those veterans love seeing you come in there and get them out of the war zone on that big old aircraft. And I just loved it. I can't say enough about that.
Well, that's beautiful. This chapter that we're talking about today is about how Harriet Tubman served in the military as a nurse too. That's why I thought it was such a great time for young girls to hear current information about women in nursing and in the military and what it looks like today. And I hear your passion for taking care of patients. It was pretty much like Harriet. She had a passion to serve others. And so she served all her life. So the passion is beautiful, the passion to take care of patients. Love that. But I know you've also, after other than required travel, you've traveled quite a bit around the world other than that too. What's the most
Yeah.
exciting trip you can think of to share?
Well, actually, when I went to Israel, I think that was in 2015 when I was in Israel, walking that route of our Creator was so emotional for me. But even when I was in a lot of the countries transporting patients, picking up patients, that was interesting too, because a lot of those countries that you're in are countries from the biblical days. They're no
Hmm.
longer, the names have changed a little bit, but that it was, you had a different feeling when you're there and you're meeting. It was just a different feeling. I just love, and I'm pretty much of a pretty good organizer. So therefore, you need to be a little bit organized. In fact, you need to be a lot organized. And the patients just love you. I can remember during Desert Storm when we landed in DC after 11 hours of flying and we opened the doors of the aircraft, and those young soldiers saw that they were in America. And then the red carpet was out as we're taxiing down the runway. I was just so excited. And one of the guys said to me, because I'm short, and so he motioned for me to come over, and he said, "Ma'am, I have watched you this whole flight climbing up and down on those ropes to get to the person on the fourth litter." And he handed me a piece of the shrapnel that had been taken from him while he was in Germany before he got on our aircraft. So that was very touching. I've had some very wonderful experiences. I really have. So,
That is very special that you have known how you've impacted other people's lives. And that's what nurses do. They do impact other people's lives just by, if the person can't be healed, at least they can be comforted. And that's beautiful. So, what would you like the young ladies listening today to get from your message, or what message would you like to share with girls as far as looking at what they want to do, or if they're considering military or haven't considered military? What would you suggest for young girls today?
whatever your choice is, if someone tells you can't do that, because I heard that a lot when I first decided to join the military back when I was 18 years old. that, oh no, you don't need to do that. If that is your choice, I want you to try it. At least give it a try. You might find out that it may work for you because I had a lot of barriers, really. I was short, and some of those barriers can be, there can be a waiver for them. Sometimes you just have to go with your heart. And if things don't work out, then you can always change and do something else very similar to it. Not maybe not in a war zone, but in a free area. But I just want to encourage you to, we have those talents. Sometimes we don't maybe recognize them. And maybe someone else has to remind us, and we may do okay anyway. But if you really have a passion for that love, I love taking care of adults. So, and that's what I did. And I just, in spite of some of the barriers that I had with fear from the aircraft, that went away after a while. And I just love it. So continue to just move on and try it. Give it a try.
Right. Thank you.